This is Uping stock trend prediction. So in this video, I will talk about how to find the best time to sell or to buy a stock. For example, the COSTCO. So for example, I can find the COSTCO COST stock. So this is the real-time data for COSTCO, and this is the daily chart, and this is the monthly chart. So for example, today right now is August 21st, so that's a Saturday. So this is the last Friday, August 20th data, and this is August 19th data. That's a daily chart. That means each vertical line is 1 day's real-time stock data. So you can see from this kind of trend lines predicted by the Uping stock trend prediction model based on the machine learning algorithm and the signal processing technique. So based on this kind of trend lines, that's a resistance trend line, and this blue trend lines is a kind of support trend lines. So this stock price are enclosed and also predicted very well by this kind of trend lines. So for on August 19th, so you can see this kind of vertical line. That's a daily Thursday's data. So this is the left tick is the opening price, and this is a high price, this is a low, and that's a closing price. So each vertical line represents a kind of a candlestick plot of the stock price fluctuation. So that's represent the opening, high, low, and the closing. So you can see at one time of on Thursday, the stock price decreased to this kind of a minimum value predicted and also tracked by the trend lines. So even on these trend lines, so this price is $445.57, and this price is $441.75. So it's this one is basically $442. So so you can see the stock price dropped down to this kind of a minimum value predicted by the stock trend prediction, the model. So and then after it reaches to the minimum value, then the stock price started to increase, and during that day there's may have some kind of cycling of the stock price fluctuation, but you see this kind of a closing price at that day is already reached very close to the maximum value trend line. So this at this point, this closing price or a relatively high price is $454.05. So 454 and minus this kind of 442, so it's about $12 difference. So if you can capture this kind of a minimum value or the maximum value, so for the stock price fluctuation, for example, if I purchase the stock price at this low value region and sell it on that low price region, so I can basically make a profit with $12 difference for each share. So if I purchase 100 shares, then basically I can earn $1,200. That's $1,200 in 1 day. So next day there's another tips or other kind of criteria or tips. Then you can make other kind of a decision, try to see if you want to keep that stock or not, and maybe like keep it for another day or for another several days, and try to take advantage of additional price increase. But I will not cover this kind of tips in this video. So basically I'm just trying to tell you or share some tips about this kind of try to using the Uping stock trend prediction model and the software, and then we can track the minimum value and the maximum value. Then basically you can do a very good job in a day trade. So for example, right now this minimum maximum value or minimum value can be visually seen by this kind of trend lines. So if I take off, remove this kind of trend lines, so basically if I remove these trend lines, for example, disable this kind of study, disable study, just a moment, let me, if I disable this study, that's this curve, the trading ultimate indicator. So if I disable that trend lines, for example, that means if I don't have that type of stock trend prediction model or software, then I can only just see this kind of candlesticks plots of the stock trend, stock price fluctuation. So for example, each day is just tells you the opening, high, low, and the closing. And for on that day, Thursday, August 19th. So for example, if the stock price decreased to this kind of low value, many people probably just are panic, and they probably don't want to even buy this stock because they are not very sure about if the stock will continuously drop the price or if the stock price will start to increase. So if they don't have any kind of a tool to tell them the maximum value or minimum value, then it's very hard for them to make a good decision. So that means for this kind of a situation, they were concerned about the continuous decreasing of the stock price. So it's very hard to make that decision for day trade, right? So if you enable this kind of trend lines, so if, for example, if I turn on this kind of studies, turn on this kind of trading ultimate indicator, so that's developed by the Uping stock price or stock trend prediction model. So if I turn on this kind of trend lines prediction, and this is a yellow trend line, is a kind of a resistance trend line, and this blue trend line is a kind of a support trend lines. So that means it can capture this kind of minimum value or the maximum value. So even though, for example, at this minimum value, even though you didn't buy all stocks at this step, and then when the stock price decreased into this level of the minimum trend lines, that's a very good opportunity to buy the stock price. So even though you buy some stocks at this price, that's also the minimum value predicted by the stock trend prediction. So that's 445, and this closing price is 454.33. So it's about $9.5 or about $10 difference. So it's still a large amount of stock price difference. So if you can capture this kind of minimum value and buy the stock at the low price and also sell the stock at the high price, even though you do this kind of day trade between this range, between this region, you can still earn $1,000 for 100 shares. So this is kind of a daily chart, and this is a monthly chart. So for the same day, August 19th, that's this kind of the vertical lines, that's a basic candlestick chart for the monthly chart. So you see this kind of trend lines of the resistance trend line, and the resistance trend line for this yellow trend line, and the support trend line for this blue trend lines. This kind of trend lines predicted or tracked the stock price fluctuation very well. So you see right now, last Friday, just yesterday, so the stock price, the closing price, is already reaches to this maximum value. So definitely this is not a good time to buy this stock. So you need to consider to sell this stock if you already purchased it before. So right now it doesn't recommend to buy this stock at this time. So for this is a daily chart and the monthly chart. So even you see this kind of 60-minute charts, for example, that's a 60-minute chart. So for that means about 7 bars, 7 vertical lines, 7 bars in one day. That's for yesterday. So and for the August 29th, that's this vertical line. That's corresponding to this the bars in 60 minutes chart. So for example, when the stock price decreased to this minimum value predicted by the European stock trend lines, and this price is around 441.94. That's $442. So you see in this 60 minutes, that has a much better resolution, and this 442.64, that's kind of the minimum value predicted by the trend line. So you see this dropped to this kind of minimum value, and then it started to increase the price. Even during the first hour on August 29th, you see the stock price already increased, and this is the closing price at the end of the first hour. So you see it's already increased to a high price region, even from the 60 minutes chart. So if you take a look at this kind of trend lines, that will give us a better confidence or kind of a confirmation about finding the best time to buy or to sell a stock. So if you are interested in this kind of videos, just subscribe Uping stock trend prediction channel, or you can search some keywords using the Uping stock trend prediction and in YouTube.